Yeah, I'm going to start working on it. I got the floor done in the Jeep, and even though it's not per the way they do it in the body shops, it's strong and it's not going to rust out, and it's sealed up really good, and it's stronger than the original probably. Now the next thing is to fix this dent, and I was thinking about pulling it out. I tried to pull it out and it's too crumpled up. I'm just going to make a piece of steel first and see how it comes out. And instead of, because this fender actually would have to come from the west coast of Canada with freight, and it's, forget it. I don't even want to bother with it. I'm just curious if I can fix it. And I might not even have to take the fender off. I'm going to have to take the grill off, this upper piece, the bumper. The bumper should be easy to fix because it's just pushed in a little bit here, and if you hit this down, that'll pop out. That, you know, if you got that on like a nice anvil. So what I did was I went over to this side and I marked basically what I cut out like this. That's the top. That goes into the side light right there. This folds in. That piece folds in because there's a notch, a hole here and a hole here where the grill fits in. Obviously I got to take the grill out and the bumper. I might not even, it'd probably be best to leave the fender on to see how it comes out so I can look and see if it's pretty symmetrical. And I got this little bend down here and it curls up on the bottom. So what I did was, you take this rough drawing and I drew it out on the other side, which will be, you know, right about like this. So that would go over here, and you know, it would fit around the light. I'm going to make it a little bit big because, you know, I can always trim it. And this little dent here I could pop out. That should be no problem, or you know, there might be a little bit of filler in there or something. And first I'll make the piece roughly, and it's actually just a piece of flat steel, so it's not really too big of a deal. You know, it's pretty flat except for this bend on there's like a curved bend there on the bottom, and it's a smooth, you know, there's no contours. It's just a flat piece of metal that bounds around basically. So I'm going to try to make this. It's only 18 gauge. It's not too difficult to do. So I'll cut this out and you know, with the jigsaw start bending it, and bend a little lip and all that type of stuff, which is this. That's a little, that this folds in here, so because this is where this attaches. And I'll have to take the grill off, this little upper piece, whatever the hell you call this. It's not the radiator mount, I don't know what it is. And the bumper and this piece down here, and that's real easy to straighten out. The only thing is, it's this fender. So that's about the last thing I really got to do on it. There's a couple little spots on the bottom of the fenders, and you know, I was almost thinking about leaving them on, because I could just take the Dremel, cut this, flange it, and put a piece of metal in there. I'm not going to weld it. I'm going to use it's called it's a special adhesive for gluing on quarter panels, and it'll overlap. And that adhesive, I mean, this is not a critical plate. It ain't gonna break though. It's not like normal glue. It's an adhesive for actually gluing on body panels. That's how they make cars in the factories now. So I'll probably just cut this, flange it, and you know, probably maybe just overlap it right over that, and just have a little, make the little piece down here on the bottom. It's freaking small, and glue it in there instead of welding, because it'll get all freaking worked and stuff, you know, because I'm not using a true MIG welder and I'm not a skilled welder. So that'll work fine, you know. And I'll coat the inside of everything with chassis saver really good, and then I'm on the way to painting it. Actually, I decided, since this is the original paint, it's, you know, it's not flaking off, it's just faded out. A good candidate to freaking paint this thing with is DuPont Nason, Nason, and It's actually, DuPont makes good stuff. It's not their top line paint, but it's cheap. It's not that much more than what I was going to use. I was going to use paint for cars. Yeah, the DuPont brand I trust a lot more, and it's not their, but it's still pretty good. It's plenty good enough for a Jeep. Just a single stage urethane. It's plenty good enough for a Jeep. And you know, if you get a scratch on it, it's like, hey, sand it down and you paint it again, you know, no big deal. And it's probably better than the paint that came with the car, so it may last like a lot more than 5 years, easy. So it may last like a hell of a lot more than that. Depends on if you have it out in the sun and if you have it waxed and all that type of stuff. That's really what matters. So pretty much, there's very tiny little bits of rust on here. There's a tiny little bit right in here, which I can just cut out and make a tiny little patch for that. There's a couple little dents on the hood, and what I may do with that, I was thinking about something, because what I did one time is I forgot to latch the hood good. I had it like one latch like that, and the hood flew up, right, and then hit up there on the top. The you know, the bumpers things, like when the windshield folds down in this Jeep. You know, a lot of Samurai. Well, this is a, you know, I don't know what the hell you call this. It's called a Jimny. It's actually a Japanese model, JA51. You know, it's kind of like an SJ413 if you're into this stuff. But what I'm going to probably do is I'm thinking about putting a piece of 16 gauge over this big over here and over this whole thing, and coming down this side and actually have reinforce this a little bit down here and have those hooks with the Jeep has, the hinge hooks. Now I don't know if this is high enough. If they are high enough, I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to make probably something that I can actually double lock this thing, because I don't want that problem to occur again. Because I think, you know, if I fix this real pretty, at one point in time it's going to do the same stupid thing anyway. I don't have to fix it all over again. So if I have a lot of metal on it, it ain't going to dent. Okay, so basically I put the paper template I made. I didn't have to make a cardboard template, basically. So what kind of base, this would be the basic rough cutout in the metal. It's going to be just a little bit bigger, and it's already marked. That's the top, and that's where I got to make a little fold crease. There's like down at the bottom. There's this gets folded in down here on the bottom. This gets folded in here on the side. There's a couple holes drilled for where the grill goes, and the side light is up here. And this, basically, there's a bend that's going to be right around in this area. So I put that over the metal, and I painted around it. And this is only 18 gauge, so this is going to be pretty damn easy to cut compared to that 12 gauge. And I got the jigsaw there, and the only thing you got to do with the jigsaw, same thing, is use a lot of pressure. You got to hold it down real tight so it doesn't vibrate. It cuts real good otherwise. It's good to hold the metal here with some vice grips or something, and use some kind of lubricant or WD-40 on the blade to keep it cool, and I'll cut it out. So that's not going to be a big deal. Next thing is going to be shaping it, and I don't think, you can see how easy this bends, right? I don't think it's going to be too hard to shape this thing. Okay, that cut out very easily. Now here's the piece of paper. There's the piece of metal, right? So that's the top. That's going to be folded in. I think I'm going to do this bend first, and then I'm going to curve, and then I'll have to make probably a cut here to make this bend. Maybe a cut like this, so I can make this bend, and the bend on the bottom. And this stuff is actually pretty easy to cut. You know, actually, even on the muscle cars, this is 18 gauge. You can use this for this is typically like your compact cars, or cars today are 18 gauge, somewhere around there. The older cars from the 70s, 60s, they're about 16 gauge, and you know, I'm talking about like on the fenders and the hood and the doors and the quarter panel. You can get away with using this too, but some people even use 20 gauge, even thinner stuff. But The 16 would be easy to cut too and pretty easy to bend. This is easy to bend. This is 18 gauge, and this is exactly what's on the Jeep there right now. It's almost exactly 18 gauge, so that's the same size metal. It looks like it's going to be very easy to bend. The 12 gauge, I had to use a sledgehammer to bend that. That was tough stuff. Now this should be a nice easy crease to do. I got a red line over here. I measured how much this has to go into, well, how much it has to be creased over, folded over, and this is only 18 gauge. So just, and it's clamped down really good. There's a big old piece of girder steel, so just tap it. Very easy. This isn't like the 12 gauge. That's pretty good. I'm just going to get it roughed out. That's it. So it's curved over. Next step is the hard part actually is just going to be making the next bend. I'm going to have to measure that out. Now this is the only hard part of the deal if it's considered difficult. I mean, if you're a body man, it's going to be easy. This basically comes out, it's like an angle. It's not perfectly up and down vertical. So you got to compensate for that. But that shouldn't be a big deal because I can make it flat and they just line up over here a little bit different. So what I got to do is measure how much it's flat. I'd say about 1 5/8 and put a piece over here. We'll basically run the cardboard around it. And so 1 5/8, and where how much it has to be curved goes up to about here. I'll double check it, but it looks like a 4 5/8 inches, so it's 1 5/8, and then this is about 3 inches. This part is the curve, so I'll use a wide pipe to make that, and I'll fit it out there. I'll see how that works out. It should be alright. Well, I just stuck it on the vehicle to see how it's coming out. Actually, this piece is gonna come out perfect. It really is, because this is just a real rough finish right now. I just bent it by hand, and you just got to bend this in a little further than that. This is less at an angle, so that makes it jut out more on the bottom. Then I got to measure and make a little indentation here, make a slight little cut here and a little indentation here. And actually this piece is going to work out very good. I'm going to leave the fender on, get it all in place. Then I'll take the fender off, and I'll actually fix the little rust on the bottom. I'll take the fender off and sandblast any place that's rusty and hit it with the chassis saver and truck bed lining, so it won't rust out anymore. It doesn't have much rust as it is, but it's going to be better than factory. So this is fairly easy. This stuff bends easy by hand. It's bringing back memories. It's bringing back memories. So it's going on pretty good. Okay, so that's what we got so far. Basically, I made a couple little cuts on the bottom here, so I can make this little indentation going in. And this is not going to be hard to do. I just got to cut a little off down there and a little around the edge. So really all else I have to do is just cut out the metal that's underneath this, flange it, and this has to be trimmed down a little bit more, but it's basically there. Actually, if I press this on here tight and I pop riveted it and painted it with what do you call it, a truck bed liner, you'd never notice on a Jeep, but you notice that's how it is. It's got this little indentation here. You got to drill a couple holes for this the grill. It goes in a little bit down here like that. It's got a curve and it comes out a little bit in the front. It's real easy. So that's basically it. So it's going to take a little time to fine tune it, but you know, this is not a show car, this is a Jeep, and it's actually going to look fine. You're not going to even notice it's there. So anyway, that's what I got going. And I noticed up here on the hood, you notice I used to spray a lot of wax in here. That's what kept it from rusting out and stuff. What I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to use some metal on the outside with Torx head screws so they don't look so funky, you know, and actually put a couple pieces of bars over the top like I was discussing. I'll pull these dents out real good because I have there's like a couple dents on the hood here, excuse me, right here. I mean, these could pop out real easy. I have the spot welder dent puller. And I could pull those out where you probably hardly even notice them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of metal over this and bolt it to the bracing underneath it. And it's going to be some pretty heavy steel. I'll make this bend so it goes over it. And I'll make sure in between the metal there's like chassis saver and truck bed lining and stuff so it'll never rust. And I'm going to put something underneath this too, probably to reinforce this too. And I might put something on here with those ties. I noticed they sell them. They sell some rubber ones so the hood will never fly up. But that'll make this Suzuki, you can make the body a little stronger. That's the one thing I don't like about these. This is it's lightweight stuff, but that's what makes it economical too. So actually I like this thing. If this thing didn't run so good, I'd probably put the Volkswagen diesel in it, the 1.6. It's got a Weber carburetor on it, and it runs like, it's got 220,000 miles, and when you change the oil at 3,000 miles, it's full right to the very top. It runs like brand new. So I maintained it very well from new though, so that's the other thing. But the one beauty of these Jeeps is that if you put that 1 point, I'm going to just throw this on as video. If you could actually, you'd have to use a 2-inch lift kit, but they sell from some adapters, excellent quality adapters. You could put a 1.6 Volkswagen diesel in it, and you can run it on vegetable oil. And even with this box shape that we have, that pushes the air, it still gets it gets about 45 miles to the gallon. So it's just as good as a Prius, and it's 4-wheel drive. So how's that, huh? Not too bad. I like this because it's almost like the old Willys in a way.